Hi, everybody. It's Erin Scott here. How are you doing? I'm recording this on Wednesday, April 29th, 2020, and we're going to take a look at a couple things coming up. First of all, this particular video, we're going to look at the nodal shift that's occurring very soon. It's happening in 6 days. And this is going to be significant because we're moving into an entirely new 18-month cycle of release and growth. So we're going to take a look at that. But I want to remind you all before we do of all of the activations that we have going on. Okay. So we've just had Pluto go retrograde in Capricorn at this 24-degree, almost 25-degree point. Keep in mind, it was at the 22-degree point in Capricorn where it met with Saturn, and that was the 12th of January. It was a well-known point of activation, right? And we've been seeing the natural activation processes occurring during this first quarter and now into the second quarter of 2020. But there's a couple of things to note here. Now I'm talking to you now on the 29th, right? So we have Beltane occurring. The exact point, this kind of astrological point where the sun is at 15 degrees, is happening on May 4th. It is on the 5th that the nodes are going to shift, okay? Full moon, we have Mercury entering Gemini, but here on the 11th, May 11th, we have Saturn going retrograde. On the 13th, we have Venus going retrograde. On the 14th, we have Jupiter going retrograde. So there's a lot of activation here. There's planets moving signs. There's retrograde activations happening after Pluto. And there's the nodal shift. So you can see all of this activation here in May. Gets us all the way through the 20th of May. There's still the end of the month to go, but you can see this first few weeks of the month is dynamic. And it's all feeding into one another, right? So for example, when we're looking here at the blueprint, because what I'm looking at here is essentially the point that the nodal axis shifts from Cancer Capricorn into Sagittarius Gemini. That's what I'm looking at here. This is the blueprint for this 18-month cycle ahead. Okay? So let's take a look at what this is showing us. Firstly, I'm going to have you note that what we're looking at here is the archetypal wheel of the Zodiac with a 0-degree Aries start for the wheel, right? And you're going to notice here that we have this ascendant point showing essentially right at this point. So for those of you who are familiar with astrology, which most of you are if you're watching this video, this is the beginning of the zodiac wheel. This would be the natural ascendant point. So what I'm trying to say is that with this particular encoding, with this particular imprinting, pulling up a New York, or an Eastern US chart, we have the ascendant here at essentially the ascendant point. Now, if I pull up a Pacific Coast time, a Western US time frame, or if I pull up a London time frame, or if I pull up a Sydney, Australia time frame, this ascendant will move. So it moves anywhere from about 25 degrees Pisces all the way to about 12 degrees Aries. So it moves. This ascendant point changes and shifts depending on where you're located on the planet. Okay? So this is very specific, this 29-degree ascendant here in Pisces. It is very specific to Eastern US or Eastern time zone, okay? However, if you're Pacific time or London time, this is still an active square to the nodal axis shift. And I want to talk about that actually, because there's loads to talk about simply with the archetypal shifts, which is really the focus of this video. But if we're looking at this square point, I have to tell you, it could not be more appropriate, as nature always does. There's always an appropriate process and enmeshed, interrelated narrative. Always. It's just the way it is. This is a self-organized system here, everybody. And so there's perfection in it. So before we talk about this dynamic square with our perceptions, which is keyed into the growth arc for the next 18 months, let's talk first about the South Node positioning. For the last 18 months, we've had the South Node moving clockwise through Capricorn, okay? Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, talking about civilization, social structures, global political structures, leaders, corporate entities, banking systems, health systems, education systems, the structures of our society globally. And really, for us individually, the structures of our lives. So, for the last 18 months, many of us have been either actively reconstructing our lives or dreaming of the new goal for the new structure of our lives. That's what's been the natural activation. And along with that, for many people, for many of you that have been in, let's say, traditional careers, there's been alteration occurring for you. There's been new perspectives and there's been new destructive cycles happening with regards to that career or those goal sets, that which you align with, that which you, that were originally part and parcel to your goal structure as a human being. Well, over the last 18 months, there's been lots to create redirections for you, lots of destructions and things taking you into new paths or having you dream the new aligned dream for the structure of your life. And for some of you, that incorporates your career, the right alignment for your right work, which, by the way, for those of you familiar with my work, you know that there's career alignment services in my services. For those of you unfamiliar, you can see links below to connect with my website to learn more about who I am, the orientation, what I do, and what the services are there. But really, getting to know your own blueprint is key, as a lot of you know. It's foundational, right? But the structure of everybody's lives is changing. It has been changing. So with that being said, the South Node position as it was moving through Capricorn was all about what needed to be released. And so thus, as Pluto continues its beginning of 2008 through to 2025 process of destruction of these social systems, indeed, the South Node was moving through to say, there's things that must be seen and released here. There's certain patterns of corporate entities, political entities, etc., that must be eliminated. Okay? And that's what's been happening. And in addition to that, as a lot of you know, if you've watched my previous videos or if you receive my newsletter, in addition, over the last 2 months, we've been in this Kalsarpa yoga process of planets between the nodal axis points, creating really a lot of condensed karmic experience and necessary experience, things that were beneficial, optimal to happen, to come to light, to be unfolded, to be manifested, so that rearticulation could happen, so that redirection could happen, so that clarity could happen. Difficult processes, karmic processes, and necessary processes, all of those things. So now, with this shift of the South Node, as of the 5th of May, 2020, 4 a.m. Eastern Time, look at this wonderful change of storyline. Now, this is not going to be without its growth edges, everybody. This is not going to be total delight. There's going to be beautiful growth edges here, necessary growth edges here. With the 29-degree, 59-minute South Node in Sagittarius and the 18-month cycle of moving through here, this is about what needs to be released with regards to our belief systems, with regards to our education systems and way we think and believe about teachers, gurus, philosophies, truths. What kind of truths do we hold so dear that actually we're going to be busted? There's going to be all this shattering of illusion here, everybody, over the next 18 months. People, things that you thought that you knew as truth, okay? And by the way, look at where the MC is located here. So we have the ascendant here, we have the MC here, right on this point. Okay. So there's alignment here. There's such a deep alignment here, because the interesting thing is this MC, which is the natural point of the external self, the public self, the self as it meets society and our civilized world, the externalized process of being human and as it engages with life, that MC point is that point of external process of engagement with society. This South Node on the MC in Sagittarius specifically talks about the need to release your belief about the work, the career, the goals, the grind of the human narrative, the modern human narrative. Working 60 hours a week, I'm sorry, that's a myth. That's been created. It's been created. It's an enslavement here. So these beliefs are this is tied, in other words. Again, the ascendant at 29, the MC at 29, it is specific for Eastern US people or those living in this Eastern zone, time zone. But if you live Pacific or London, it's only a couple degrees off here. It's about 2 degrees off this way Pacific. It's, a little bit this way for London. So it's important to recognize that this is similar really for everybody. It's going to be a similar narrative for a lot of us. The belief and the truth and our construct of reality as it relates to our goals, our sense of success, our idea of achievement. This process of 18 months, everybody, is going to be dissolution. It's going to be a shattering of beliefs. For some people, this is going to be challenging. For others, it's going to be welcome because people want alignment. Ultimately, everybody wants alignment, but there are certain individuals, there are people who are so fixed and rigidly attached to their ego identification, to who they think they are and what their idea of truth is, and this insistence that that's the only truth that exists. These people are not going to do well. There's going to be a lot of exacerbated belief systems. Whenever we're looking at the nodal axis points and where it's transiting, there's extremity. And so what are we going to look at in the next 18 months with people over this time frame? Extreme beliefs, extreme dogmas, teaching styles and philosophies that come from places of extreme perspectives, very kind of rigidly attached dogmas. This is all going to be part of the story. We don't have to suffer and be victim to it. This is what people are doing. This is what's happening. And in the meantime, those that are awake and responsible and mature are going to be able to indeed release the beliefs that don't serve, the beliefs that are too tied to a particular black and white orientation of reality. I'll speak more about this. This is going to be a relatively short video here, but I'll speak more about this, okay? North Node, where it's been transiting over the last 18 months, has been in Cancer. Of course, the other thing with Capricorn Cancer is that there's been this focus on father patriarchy and mother earth. Okay? So kind of the corporate life and the intimate, meaningful life. Father, mother, patriarchy, matriarchy, the buildings and the structures and the products built through capitalism, and that which is earth-based, nurturative, generative, home-based, family-based narratives. So issues with, over the last 18 months, issues with father, issues with mother. These might have come up for many of you, actually. The narratives about childhood experiences, how your relationship is now changes in the dynamics of the relationships with parents if they're still living for you, memories of certain dynamics with those folks, because again, we're looking at extremity when we're talking about each one of these nodal axis points. But the other main theme of growth with this North Node transiting Cancer has been extremely important and very wise in nature's evolutionary process, which is the natural process of the North Node moving through this space. And this is about this mastery arc, the North Node, moving away, letting go of this pattern of looking at the government, looking at the external, looking at the traditional societal structures as the security, and actually tapping into your feelings, what has meaning for you, what is emotionally resonant for you, what connects you to the deepest strata of your being, what feels good, what is true for you inside, what is the resonant goal set, and what's the real security. Is it out here or is it in here? The North Node moving through Cancer has been calling for a reconnection to your internal structure, to tapping into your meaning making center, to reconnecting head and body, to reconnecting mind and heart, all of this stuff. This is about deepest connection and redirecting what really matters. That's the moon, that's Cancer. Saturn ruling here, Cancer ruling here. The growth arc was always the moon. The growth arc was always mother, whether it be earth or our physical mother or the mother archetype. But it's about moving more toward the regenerative, nurturative realities. Okay, so that was the growth edge for the last 18 months. Now, what do we have? We have, as of 4 a.m. Eastern time on the 5th of May, the nodal axis here at 29 degrees 59 minutes and 18 months in Gemini. And this is going to be a narrative of growth. In fact, by the way, everybody, this node is going to be sitting at this 29 degree point. Let me check my ephemeris. It's going to be like 2 months. Let me see if I can find it quickly here. That node, the North Node of the moon, will be sitting at 29 degrees from the 5th of May through July. Let's see if I can find the exact date here. It looks like July 8th. So what is that? 2 months. 2 months and a day, 2 months and a couple days, that we will have the nodal axis sitting at 29 degrees. 29 degrees, for those of you who don't know, is a critical degree. So let's first talk about the theme in Gemini, and then we'll talk about the critical degree aspect, okay? So when we're talking about the node moving through Gemini, this is, of course, ruled by Mercury. Gemini, the third house, Mercury, govern, rule, are associated with, are the archetype of mental activity, curiosity, how our mind focuses and functions, how we communicate, social networking, social engagement, data sharing, information sharing, wit, learning, again, curiosity, as I already stated. So there's this kind of social connectedness with Gemini. There is a community connectedness here, neighbors, the local community. What I have told or mentioned to some of my neighbors, or my neighbors, what I've mentioned to some of my members in some of the recent sessions has been, that saying about think locally, act locally, think globally, or think globally, act locally. That's what this is about. That's what this is about here, especially when we're talking about South Node through Sag. One of the areas that we need to eliminate, because this is what needs to be released here. There's much to say about the South Node, but to simplify it and reduce it in a meaningful way, it is where we must recalibrate and we must release, because there's certain aspects here that are not connected to the new growth arc. This is the existing pattern. This is the new pattern that is to be made manifest. And this existing pattern in Sag specifically talks about travel. It specifically talks about certainly our belief systems, our constructs of realities, and our truths, but it also speaks about that which is far away, people that are far away, cultures that are far away, travel to these places that are all over the planet. This is flight and movement to places far away. So, this polar opposite here at the bottom, Gemini. Gemini is about local travel, local contact, local community. This is global, this is local. And so, when we're thinking kind of easily and effortlessly in a way that's very holistic about the state of the planet as we know it now to be, of course, this would be the natural growth arc. Of course, it would. This is about moving away from over there and moving into attend to what is right here. We can think globally. That South Node is going to naturally connect us to the global, multicultural, societal human family. It's going to connect us to that. But to focus all of our energy over here is not going to work. In fact, for those of you insisting, I would say, on travel or pining that you won't be able to travel so much, because keep in mind, we are in the middle of, or not in the middle, we're right at the beginning of a 2.5-year cycle of Saturn through Aquarius. I might have to do a separate video on this. This is going to be constrainment and containment for the next couple of years, everybody. The South Node in Sag might mean that people are going to be pining to travel, to move, to go, to be in other places. But at the same time, the North Node really does pull you in the proper direction. There is going to be a natural, almost gravitational pull for a lot of people to release the need to travel, the need to go here or focus even the energy over here. Even the mass media. See, this is going to be another thing. This South Node through Sagittarius is going to be a release of attending to ingestion of news 24/7, or even what do I want to say? I was going to say movies and videos, but not so much that. It's more the teachings of things. There's going to be a release of that. A lot of people you're going to find, I've been in this state for about 3.5 years now. There's going to be a desire for a lot of you to release attachments to teachers, philosophies, ideas. Everybody has their own story. We don't need to listen to it all. We don't need to read it all. We don't need to hear it all. In a way, it matters, and in a way, it doesn't. In a way, it serves people, and in a way, it can get too noisy. So I guarantee you, for those of you that have been drinking a lot of information in from a lot of different people, because the internet is saturated, I guarantee you that a lot of you are going to be withdrawing. You're going to want to disconnect from a lot of people and talk. The thing is, Gemini is very talkative, and the North Node here will mean that kind of the focusing out here to anything that's beyond your local sphere of influence is not going to be your interest. Your local sphere of influence, your local community, like for example, different areas of the US, and I'm assuming different areas of the world, have email systems that collaborate community messages. And I really feel that, local contacts, local connections, local collaborations, teamwork, co-learning, gift economy stuff is going to be escalating, especially with Venus. We have Venus here for this extended period as we have this 29-degree North Node here. So this growth arc of Gemini, letting go of all the stuff out there, lots of news, lots of information, lots of stuff out there and across the world. Keep them in mind and don't focus on it. This is going to be the natural growth arc. This is going to be the natural pull as well. So this is about two. I have to say, the other really huge thing about this nodal point, this north node point, this evolutionary point, moving for this next 18-month cycle through Gemini, everybody, this is about connecting in with your own mind. I'm going to repeat that. The north node through this space is asking you to release the ideas of others and to connect in with your own discerning faculties, with your own analytical faculties, with your own mind, trusting your own thoughts, your own analysis, your own interpretations. It's not necessarily about making them truth, but it is about connecting in with your own perspectives. Hopefully, this North Node by the end of the 18-month transit will have you, each of you, own your own mind and understand that there are multiple truths out there. Everybody has their own perception. It's based on your blueprint. For those of you that have not had your natal chart analysis read, I invite you to do that. You can find the links below. It's critical. Everybody has to understand their story if they are to not be in a constant level of victim and confusion about why patterns persist, why the reactions are playing out the way they are. It's easy. Once you understand the story, and by the way, sometimes it takes some years to really assimilate the knowledge of who you are and what your story is. Sometimes people hear and they analytically understand their blueprint, but it can take for different people. It depends on their cycle of growth. It depends on their level of awareness. It depends on their level of willingness. And that's all based on the progressed process of your individual growth, by the way. I invite those of you sincerely interested in knowing who they are, all of the shadow stuff, all of the core kind of impetus points that create the woundings, the reactions, and the patterns, you can be in touch. But with regards to this, I have to tell you, one of the most exciting things, I see many exciting things with the North Node through Gemini. Many. One, think globally but act locally. That's going to be huge. Number two, letting go of the beliefs and the ideas of truth proposed by others. Letting go of what you hear and then ultimately, automatically, which so many do, believing in its truth. Here, there's a level of discernment and questioning. There can be a level of ownership of your own mind, your own thoughts. Oh, this is how I think. This is how I interpret. Hopefully, that will be the growth for people. This is part of the self-inquiry work that I also do, okay? So I do believe that this time frame is going to be maturation. Maturation from adopting what the philosophy and the religious philosophy says, or the educative academic philosophy, or the scientific philosophy, or the political philosophy. It doesn't matter. Whoever the teacher and the guru is, whatever the truth is that's being proposed as the collective truth, you can let that go. Okay? So over the next 18 months, a lot of people are going to naturally just disconnect from that. And that means turning off televisions, let's hope. It means turning off the news, not reading so much, not imbibing so much additional information. People are full. People are full. They don't want to be lectured at anymore. Okay? This is for you to connect in, to get curious, to learn, to assimilate knowledge that you've received, to assimilate the wisdom that you've gleaned, your own experiences through your lives. I hope that makes sense, everybody. It really is a massive, beautiful process that's going to be unfolding. And by the way, it's going to be more able to happen because of Saturn moving through this space. There is going to be more restriction occurring over this next couple plus years. Okay? Restrictions are going to allow time to connect in with your own mind, to hone your own communication, your own education, your own curiosity, to find a little bit of wit and joy in things, to be a little bit lighter with things, okay? To connect with your neighbors, your community, to build community, to really kind of share information in a gift economy sort of scenario. Again, let's talk about the 29 degree points. For 2 months, we're going to have a critical degree nodal axis activated. No accident. This is aligned. It's perfect, and nature always does it correct. The 29 degree is the push. The critical degree says there's a need to assimilate. Assimilate. So 29 degree Gemini is there's a need to assimilate what you know. There's a need to assimilate the way your mind functions. There's a need to assimilate and embody and mature, 29 degrees, the way that your mind functions. How are you focusing your thoughts? Your thoughts, everybody, is everything, as a lot of you have heard over the years, but now is the time, over the next 18 months, this is the time to put that into action. It's not about knowing that your mind is so potently powerful, especially the mind as it works with the emotional body, because the emotional body holds the memory of experience and it holds the belief system, the orientation of who you are. What is that? It depends on your blueprint. So for you to really assimilate, 29 degree Gemini, assimilate and mature how you use your mind. Where is your mind going? Where is it operating? What is the rejection or the denial or the insistence of truth? What is the way, where does it focus its energy? Where does your mind naturally focus? Does it focus on the lack? Does it focus on the victim or the hurt or the pain or the blame or the projection patterning? Where is it operating? This is going to be massive over this 18-month cycle. Many people are going to come out of this cycle more mature. Okay? So this is huge. You know what, I will do a secondary video because I want to talk about this symbology. I'm not going to do it here, but we'll talk about the Sabian symbology for some of these key points. I'll do that in the next video. But while this critical degree for 2-month point is asking for assimilation, asking your mind, being aware of your mind, being aware of your thoughts, it's also asking for an assimilation of beliefs. What is it that you believe? Go deeper. Investigate your thoughts. Investigate your emotional responsiveness. Investigate your emotional reactions. What are your beliefs? It's all based on your beliefs. And now let's talk about this, because we have the ascendant at 29 degrees exactly, MC at 29 degrees exactly. Again, just Eastern time. But for anybody throughout the world, really the ascendant has this general placement. And what this means is that the square here, I mean, you know, this could be looked at as a skipped step. It's not a planet. This is the ascendant point. But when we're looking at this nodal axis with an exact squared point, the function of the ascendant is exhibiting and showing us the skipped step, which is perception. Perception. The ascendant is how we see reality. It's how we approach reality. And perfectly, where is it? It's at a critical degree, 29 degrees, Pisces. This is ruled by Neptune. This is about illusion and delusion. Pisces and Neptune rule many things. But one of the things that they rule, especially if we're looking at a critical degree, which is asking for some sort of assimilation and maturity of process, one of the earlier kind of iterations of the Neptune process is, because it represents the consciousness field, because it represents no boundary, no matter, it doesn't have any physical aspect. And so because it doesn't have a physicality to it, it can be confusing. The planet itself is cloudy, it's full of storm. So when we're talking about Pisces Neptune, we're talking about clouds. We're talking about confusion, diffusion. When we're talking about Neptune, and by the way, look at where Neptune's located, 20 degrees and 29 degrees. So this nodal axis is also squaring Neptune. This specifically is talking about our perceptions that are tied to Pisces Neptune. And again, because it's 29, I'm focusing in on what the growth arc is. The growth arc is discernment. It's about assimilating wisdom through spiritual experience and knowledge, and not succumbing to fantasy, idealism, and illusion, and self-deception. So all of these kind of ways of understanding the world, ways of seeing reality through your own lens that can be deceptive and can be based on mythic karmic woundings, which is what we're talking about here with Pisces. Huge. I can't even articulate how big this is. It's so aligned. The growth edge is belief system to questioning the mind. The connection is to diluted perception. We can't get any better than this, everybody. This is a powerful, potent time. I think that's going to be part one. This is going to complete part one. There's much more to talk about with regards to this cycle. So I will have another video coming out in the next several days. So keep your eyes out for that. For those of you who saw my announcement about the women born in the mid-60s, that group is now closed. So it's going to be a group happening throughout May every week. But I do feel that that wants to continue. For those of you interested, for those of you who were born in the mid-60s, and I'm talking between 1962 and 1968, those of you who have Pluto and Uranus conjunct in Virgo, I invite you to go to my website and read the summary of the current group that's filled, because if you're interested and you let me know, if there's enough interest, I'll create another group for June. Okay? So that's something to consider. And the reason, and you can read about it. This is not going to apply to many of you, but for those who have that Pluto-Uranus conjunction, who were born in the mid-60s, I do sense and I believe that this is a very dynamic time over the next several years for you. And it would be interesting to explore it looking at your natal chart. So for those interested, you can email me and let me know, and then we'll maybe set up another group for June. Okay? All right, everybody. I'm sending you much love for all of these impending changes. I'll have another video coming out shortly. Much love. Bye-bye.